We also had cash boxes for each child, and it had a little combination lock. Every money they got, they had to divide into three: 50 saving, 40 spending, and 10 charity. We always made them give 10% to charity, and we made them serve other people in the community as well.
Hey guys, welcome to Start Young. It's Lynn Pereira here, helping you to raise young entrepreneurs. Now in this episode, you'll meet Rabbi Daniel Lapin, who has been on this channel before, sharing with you tips on Jewish teachings on how to raise happy, successful kids. Now in this episode in particular, we're going to deep dive into how to teach your kids money, and it's really interesting to hear the stories from his own kids on how they started their businesses when they were so young. So here's Rabbi Daniel Lapin.
It's really important. Money is central. There was a movie about Howard Hughes that starred Leonardo DiCaprio and Katharine Hepburn, and she played this upper society woman who came from money and had a great deal of it, and he was this hard-driven, scrabbly young entrepreneur fighting for every dollar. And he was at her home for dinner, if I remember correctly, at one point, and he was talking about some of the monetary matters and things that he was discovering and money he was making. And she looked down her nose superciliously at him, and she said, "In our family, Mr. Hughes, we don't care to talk much about money." And he came right back at her and he said, "Madam, that's because in your family, you've always had it." Pretending that money is dirty and that you look down on it is an affectation of the super rich. And a lot of people have it. Now, the reason that parents need to be aware of this is because unbeknownst to you, your children are being infected with a certain attitude towards money in the schools that they attend. You might say, "How do you know what schools my children attend?" And the answer is that whatever school your children attend, the teachers were trained at educational colleges and teacher training schools. And those schools, all of them, tend to, I'm trying to step gingerly here, walking on eggs, because I don't want to generate intuitive responses of surging anger without, missing what I'm trying to say. But let's put it this way. In teachers training colleges and educational schools, and in many other places, by the way, there is a certain resentment towards the rich. Teachers as a group tend to think that they are underpaid. Teachers always think they're underpaid. And many people fall into that and say, yeah, teachers are doing the most important job on earth. Why are they making less money than accountants or plumbers? And my answer, and I've had teachers call my radio show, and we usually get on that topic. And are you underpaid? Yeah, I'm underpaid. What do I say to them, Lynn?
Change your job.
Quit.
Yeah, quit. Yeah, that's exactly. If you don't like it, change.
Quit. Hey, how awful. How dare they underpay you? Quit tomorrow. That's my advice to you. They always come back and they, well, then what am I going to do? I said, well, wait, if you're underpaid, then that means there are other people out there willing to pay you more. Go work for them. And that's when they realize that they're talking nonsense. Leaving aside teachers' unions and aggressive negotiations, and in the United States, COVID was used as a club to wield on the part of teachers' unions in order to get additional salaries and benefits. Look, I love teachers, and I was a high school teacher for a number of years when I was much younger. I have nothing against teachers, but I do have something against economic illiteracy. And when somebody says I'm underpaid, then the only response is you must quit. Don't you have any self-respect? You think you're underpaid? Quit. The answer is you don't really think you're underpaid because you don't know how you could possibly earn more anywhere else. That's really important. The reason teacher salaries are where they are is because there are an awful lot of people eager to become teachers. There are not a lot of people who are willing to become plumbers. That's why plumbers make more money. It's very simple. The point I'm trying to make is that even the nicest teachers and the loveliest teachers have a subtle sense of economic resentment. And And I'm not saying they're going to pour that out overtly to your children in school. Of course not. They're professionals. But children are hypersensitive. Remember, I told you that children pick up very quickly. When they call you, they say, Daddy, and you say, yeah, what is it? In that tone, they got the message. Children get the message from teachers as well. And the message always is that having money is evidence that you're somehow not such a good person. It's a diffidence about money. It's a reluctance to talk about it. And the message is that it's like talking about sex. Children learn pretty quickly not to. Nobody says to a little boy, don't drop your pants and take out your whatever. Nobody actually says to me. They learn them. They know. They pick it up very, very quickly. And don't underestimate how quickly children pick up on things. They also pick up on attitudes towards money. And in many cases, more often than not, this turns to be a tremendous handicap in later life as adults, because they can never quite rid themselves of that feeling that somehow, if I ask for payment for something, I'm a lesser person. I'd be a better person if I did it for free. No, professionals get paid for their skills and their knowledge and their experience. And when I say to the plumber, what, $200 to fix that pipe? He says, no, only $30 to fix the pipe, $170 for all the years in which I learned how to do it.
Exactly. So tell me, how did you start teaching your kids about money? Like, what's your daily habits of, do you pay them for chores and stuff?
First of all, no allowance. Allowances are like welfare, like being on the dole. It's money for nothing.
So no, just pocket money for nothing. It has to work for something. Yeah.
No, opportunities to earn money. And it may well be more than you might have in your old life, you might have given as an allowance or as pocket money, but it's earned. Let me prove what I'm saying here, because I really want people to know that this is from centuries and centuries of ancient Jewish wisdom in terms of family raising and education. This isn't stuff I pulled out of the air yesterday. I don't know how this is in Australia, but in the United States, it's pretty well known that people who win the lottery pretty much go on to have ruined, destroyed lives. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, very familiar. It's repeated everywhere. Yes.
Yeah. So how come somebody who spends 20 years building a business and then sells the business for $30 million, exactly the same amount that other guy got for the lottery, how come the guy who got 30 million from the lottery ruins his life in one of many, many, many different ways? We don't have to go into that.
He never earned it.
Sorry?
He never earned it. Just got given.
The guy who earned it gets the 30 million and it enhances his life beautifully, because earning is different from getting. And that's really, really important. So important that it might have something to do with why the Industrial Revolution launched in England, not in Germany or Spain or France or Italy, because in those languages, there is no distinction between earning money, getting money, winning money. They don't have different words. English has a different word: winning, getting, earning. Big, big difference. And so that's one thing. One of our daughters was really funny. Well, it wasn't at the time. I'm a mathematician. And so it was very, very hard for me that this daughter, Ruthie, couldn't do arithmetic. Really, really hard. Because my natural instinct was to get frustrated. It's so simple. It's so obvious. And one of the wonderful things about children is God gave them to us in order to help us grow and become better people. If I was just teaching somebody else, I may well have said, what's the matter with you? Can't you see that 17 plus 8 is 25? But when it's your own child, you say, wait a moment. God didn't give me that little girl to make her miserable and to abuse her. I got to educate her. For some reason, she's not getting that. Now, I've got to keep totally calm, and I've got to make this fun and enjoyable. And so a thought occurred to my wife and I, and we went and got the Monopoly game, And I set that out with Ruthie, and I said to her, how about you be the banker and let's have a game of Monopoly? Lynn, to my astonishment, she had no trouble doing 17 and 8 or 170 and 80 when it was rents.
Ah.
It was only in the abstract form of arithmetic on a piece of paper. As soon as it turned into dollars, her arithmetic was just fine. That was a huge insight. Learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
Now, she then began to be very interested because we obviously started doing a lot of different money problems. We couched all the we homeschooled. So this was all going on at home. We did all kinds of arithmetic problems turned into financial problems. No problem. Not surprisingly, by the time she was 9, the birthday present she wanted more than anything else was a cash register. Since she was a little girl, she was playing with one of these little plastic cash register toys, but obviously we knew she wanted a real one. So we went out and bought her a used, I remember still, it was a Casio commercial cash register, cost about $40 or something. It was no big deal. But when she opened the big box that came in, her eyes just lit up. Oh, thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Mommy. And she then went, at that age already, there was an exercise gym for women in the neighborhood. I don't know if the franchise exists in Australia. It was called Curves.
No. Oh, sounds familiar. Maybe. Yeah.
And she went there and asked them if she can bring jewelry to see if any of their customers, she said to them, I'll give you 20% of all. This is 20%, 9 years old.
Yes.
And that she
How old was she?
9 years
time?
old. We knew nothing about this.
You didn't know anything about this?
No.
And when did you find out?
When a woman who's a friend of my wife, who goes to their gym, came over one day and they were having coffee with us, and they said how much they admire our daughter. How do you know our daughter? Oh, I've bought quite a lot of jewelry from her. What happened is our daughter went and she had a friend whose mother was a craft jeweler. She used to make stuff. So she made a deal with her mom. I'll sell some of your jewelry for you if I can keep, that was the kind of deal she worked out. Anyway, you won't be surprised that when she was 15, she applied for the Curves around the corner from us was looking for a manager. So she applied for the job as manager.
Wow.
And they interviewed her and they said, well, will the hours work for you? They won't clash with your college classes? And she said, no, I'm homeschooled. And they said, how old are you? She said, I'm 15. They said, we thought you were 19. But she was so good at what she was doing, they said, well, if your parents will get an exemption from the state allowing you to have a job, we'll hire you. Well, we did, and they did. And she worked for them for a year and a half, running that particular local franchise.
Wow. That's amazing. And so what do you think was your way of parenting that made her so much more mature beyond her age, so business savvy in that way?
We were okay with them making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time expecting visitors and my wife was busy with something and she asked me to set the table. And I went to the table with one of our daughters who at the time was little. I think she was also 8 or 9. And I went up to the closet and I took out a big pile of like 10 or 12 plates of our English bone china dinner service. And I handed it to my little girl. I was really dumb because she wasn't expecting it to be as heavy as it was. They went right through her hands and splashed all over the floor. And when Susan came home, she walked in, she just saw her best dinner service in shattered fragments on the kitchen floor. And she looked at me and said, what happened? And I said, Rebecca did it. No, I didn't. I said, Rebecca and I were trying to set the table and I made a bad mistake and I dropped them. And that's it. There was no anger at all. I mean, to me, my wife thought I was a bit dumb. We didn't mind mistakes. We wanted them to stretch their wings and to try things. That at one point our son decided he wanted to go into the chicken business.
Mm. How old was he when he got into the chicken business?
14.
Oh, wow. Did you always talk about business and money?
Spoke about money and business all the time, yes. I mean, not to the exclusion of all else.
Yep.
But we were open. We spoke about our business. We were open about budgets and how that works. Our children knew what checking accounts and reconciliation was very early. As part of the educational program, we taught them to read financial statements.
Wow.
We taught them basic bookkeeping. This would have been already when they were 14, 15, 16.
Wow. Okay. So not just talk about, you're actually intentionally teaching them as well. Yeah.
And we're talking about business ideas because I'm a consultant. I shared with them, obviously keeping names and details confidential, but I would share problems, business problems that people brought to me. As family puzzles at dinner time, we would share a business plan. And there's plenty of books of these. I didn't have any trouble. I didn't have to make them up. And we'd say, what do you think of this business plan? What do you think are the likely problems this person is going to find?
I really like that. How old were they when you started feeling like they can absorb this business information that you were going through and experiencing?
About 5.
Wow. Yeah.
When our son was 16, he wasn't applying himself. He was bright and he sort of things came quickly and easily to him. And he'd much rather sell eggs to the neighborhood women from the chickens he was keeping. And so I arranged for a friend of mine who had a construction company to hire him. And we sold him on the idea. We said, listen, this is afternoons only, so you can do your schoolwork in the morning. Afternoon, we'll drop you off at the work site. And obviously it had to be off the books because it was illegal. But my friend would come by every Friday afternoon, pay our son in cash. And he walked about 7 foot tall when he a wad of cash. But he used to come home in the afternoon every day, told our friend, don't go easy. And he had to take wheelbarrows where people, I remember the first week, they were breaking up a concrete apron and there were chunks of concrete he had to load in a wheelbarrow and then push it up a ramp and tip the wheelbarrow full of concrete chunks into a dumpster. He used to come home covered with dust, absolutely exhausted. He couldn't even eat dinner. He just wanted to sleep. And we kept up at that for a while until at a certain point we said to him, how are you enjoying it? And he said, Mom and Dad, one thing I know for sure is I don't want to make my living like this for the rest of my life. And from then onwards, did he apply himself to his schoolwork? He just became a doctor. He's a specialist in emergency medicine. And we're quite sure that he was able to drive himself through that educational process because of this early experience at the age of 16.
Yeah. I'm encouraging my kids to earn money. So that means it's like, hey, can you do the beds and I'll pay you 50 cents? And I was like, oh, 50 cents. And they love it. But it gets to the point where they're now, hey, can you do this? Like, do I get 50 cents for that? So they want to earn for everything. So what's your advice on that?
Here's what we did. That's a very, very common problem, and it's an important one. What we did is we made all of them donate a few hours of work a week, either to neighbors. There was an older couple down the block, and a few of our kids would go over there for an hour every week or 2 hours every week and just take care of household chores that was hard for the older couple to do. Some of them like to go to work at an old-aged home, a nursing home, and help out there. We taught them the importance of being a giver, not just a taker. And furthermore, we also had cash boxes for each child. And it had a little combination lock. Every money they got, they had to divide into 3. 50 saving, 40 spending, and 10 charity. We always made them give 10% to charity, and we made them serve other people in the community as well. I think that helped a lot to sort of help them realize that there are times you do things for free.
So it's okay for them to, feel like they're doing chores, they get paid, but it's how they spend their money and giving the money that is going to teach them a lesson in life.
10% of the money, they get to choose what charity it goes to. We give them suggestions, we give them ideas, but they get to choose. If at all possible, we arrange for them to give it so as they actually are ideally a local charity. We can drive them over once every few months and they take their accumulated charity money and actually give it. We like that very much indeed.
Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. But if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And if you like more videos like this, we have more from Rabbi Daniel Lapin over here.